In my years of teaching meditation, I have people who come to me and say, well, this is all really fine and good, but, I can sit by myself and meditate. My wife and I can, but we have children, and we have, kids from 4 to 14, and can we meditate as a family? So this is an opportunity for me to just explore with you some of the options that I have shared over the years. I know that all of us would like to work toward the ideal of having a happy spiritual family. And often people fall in despair about how they can help the family deal with anger and resentment and impatience and negative attitudes toward oneself or the family members. And we're going to cut this for a second because I looked away. I keep forgetting that I cannot look out the window. Mm-hmm. And we ask, where is the peaceful, loving family that I imagined? And many times we struggle with what to do to even gather the family together or get it closer. I know families who insist on meeting once a week, having dinner, and then having some kind of fun activity, playing games or something, just so that there is the consistency of bonding. I know other people take the time to meet with each child at least once a month, and they talk about particularly they talk about spiritual matters with them, and they tell them how they feel about certain things and ask the children to discuss things on a spiritual level, because there isn't anything in a child's world where anybody's going to ask them those kinds of questions unless it comes out of the family, and unless that you're involved in some kind of traditional church setting. And even then, you don't know exactly what the kids are getting necessarily. So meditation is something that I can say to you that you can easily introduce to your family, and it produces early results in better moods, less stress and anxiety in the family. And as parents, we teach our children to care for their bodies by eating nutritionally and getting enough sleep, but we're not quite as clear about how for them to maintain an interior equilibrium. Extensive research indicates that just sitting 5 minutes a day, each day, does calm the body, mind, and spirit. But you're saying, how am I going to get my 4-year-old to sit for 5 minutes? Well, you don't expect your 5-year-old to sit for 5 minutes, but you can do activities that do help them calm down. And you certainly can work with the older children in the family to say, let's have 5 minutes and I have some exercises to suggest to you. When family members have a more peaceful place inside themselves, they naturally become happier and more positive and getting along with each other. And they also have a kind of center where they can cope with the day-to-day things that come up with them. And they can also experience an open heart. And we can have an open heart at home, and where our patience becomes authentic patience. And we're no longer gritting our teeth trying to be patient, but we actually feel centered ourselves. And we both can open our hearts, the kids and ourselves, particularly working with teenagers. And we feel the timelessness of each moment and actually are patient. And we feel like offering unconditional attention and unconditional time to them. So, before meditation, I want to suggest that you create a clean, quiet space where the family will meditate on a regular basis. Some people like to place flowers there, or they like to light a candle or something. And one of the things I suggest is that every member of the family has the same chair, and they place the same chair in the same position each time. For one of the things that we know is our bodies get accustomed to routine. And if they begin associating sitting there in that position with, whoever is in the family, with peace and quiet, the body will drop into that without too much difficulty. Sometimes you and the children might like to sit on the floor instead. And you certainly can do that with a folded blanket or pillows. And then a timer is very helpful. The kitchen timer, if you want, so that you turn it on for 5 minutes and keep it away from you so that it's not just ringing loudly in your space, but that you can hear it so that you can relax. And you can say, okay, I'm setting the timer, or whatever, and then when it goes off, we're going to finish our meditation. Some people like to use a gong or a bell or something just to start it so that everybody's attention is on the sound. And then the first thing I always suggest is that we begin with breath. And the younger children should do this for 3 times, and the older children and the adults for 6 times, where you have the in-breath, which we've discussed in previous lessons. You inhale for 6, you hold for 6, and you exhale for 6, and you do that for 6 times. The little kids can't do that, so you do inhale for 3, hold for 3, out for 3. Now, and we do that because the body actually responds to patterns of 3s. And when everyone is in a quiet frame of mind, then you can start doing some other things. One of the things you always want to do is to have them understand that a straight posture, a straight spine is very helpful. The other thing is the idea that when we're sitting with a straight spine, that people can feel energy move up your spine sometimes. But if you imagine that you feel the strength of the earth beneath your feet, and you imagine that the sky is overhead, and that you can feel the energy over your heart, your body, your mind, and you kind of bridge things together so that your body is a bridge between heaven and earth. And little kids even, if you use this kind of imagery, can imagine that if they sit very straight and they're just breathing and relaxed, that they can be a bridge between the sky and the earth. And at first, we need to take stock of where we are at the moment when anybody sits down to meditate. So we need to have people settle down, and then we have to say, just pay attention to how you're feeling right now in your body. Then pay attention to if you have certain thoughts that are running through your mind. And then just lead them gently to being aware of their natural breathing rhythm. And say, feel the air going in and out of your nose. Feel your chest rising and falling. Pay attention to your out breath. So just go in and then really pay attention to as you breathe out. What does that feel like? And the more that we pay attention to our out breath, the more that we let go of our thoughts, interestingly enough. And then you tell them, okay, so we're going to breathe in, and then we're going to you're going to rest for a moment, and then you're going to come back in, and then out, and rest for a minute. And as you do this, you actually begin feeling like you're filled with spiritual energy. You feel like there is some peace and joy. And after this 5-minute session, have each family member, when the dinger goes off in the kitchen, have each family member then talk about what it was like to try to quiet their monkey mind, as we call it. And after everyone's reported, then have the little ones leave and go do some quiet activity out of earshot. Now, another activity that I like a lot is to have the whole family do something called walking meditation. And the fun thing about it is to have the little ones head the line so that your family lines up maybe by age or by size or whatever. And when the little ones get into doing this, which is fairly simple for them, they can slow everybody else down as they walk in a more slow, deliberate fashion. So when you begin walking meditation, there's only one thing you have to be aware of, is that as you put your foot out, in the beginning you say stepping, 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 and then you put your foot down, and then you lift the next one up, stepping, stepping, stepping. Or you can say left, 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 right, right, right. And you're walking at a slower speed than normal during the practice. Ideally, this is done outdoors in the summertime or sometime, but I have families who, they love to do walking meditation, and they'll walk all around the kitchen and out the living room and down the bedroom halls and come back up again. And after you do the kind of left, left, or right, right, or stepping, stepping, then you add another stage to this, which is you go stepping and putting down, stepping, putting down, so that you're paying attention to how you're putting your foot out, and then you're stepping down. And then you move on to a little more complicated thing, which is you are saying lifting, moving forward, putting down, pressing the ground, so that you're very aware of the process of walking slowly. And what happens is that monkey mind, which is often all kinds of directions, has to do this, has to pay attention, because you've got your body engaged and you're saying something to coordinate the effort. Another thing that people do is they add meditative mantras or phrases to this. So sometimes one of my favorites is I put my foot out and I say, I have arrived. And then I put my foot down and I say, I am home. And I do that because I feel like it really does bring me way into my body and be aware of, my feet. Or sometimes people say, I am love. I am light. Or if you have, if you're a Christian, you might want to say some kind of phrase like, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. As you walk, you look around, and if you're outside, I also really want people to know that you can do this in a way that you just really take in what's happening in as far as nature goes. And so that every step we take, we are contacting the ground, or every time that we put our foot out, we may look up at the sky. And we can just be aware of the Spirit infusing us as a family. Okay, now what I call active meditation, and this is one that's really fun. You can go through a guided imagery with your kids, so that you do things like imagining that you're climbing up to a high mountain, and then you disappear into the sun, and there are people there who have something to say to you, and then you come back and you're back in a high mountain meadow and so forth. And then what you do with that is that you have the kids share what it is that they have seen. And again, your imagination, there's no end to the originality that these kids can do. It's fun to see that they have favorites. So, they know what's going to happen next. They're going to meet the old man, and then they're going to do this or that. But again, you're taking time to get the monkey mind focused. People have their eyes closed. And if you have an even number of people in the family, when they open their eyes again, you can divide people into two and have the sharing go back and forth between one and the other, so that it isn't just somebody sort of shouting at the group about whatever. And if it's an odd number, then we just have a parent who opts out. Now, sometimes it's really helpful to do some fun things like a mandala exercise. Now, the mandala is a Tibetan term. You've seen it, I'm sure, but it's an image that has the basic premise of it is a square within a circle. And what I do is I have people color a mandala, and as a family exercise, it's really fun and eye-opening to see what people do to choose what is the colors and what they say is what they're drawing. And then what I do with it is I suggest that people put them up on the refrigerator or across the wall for a little while so that people can look at this and see sort of just like, this is the center of my soul. This is how I see myself right now. So the mandala is a square within a circle that's been used for meditation in Tibetan Buddhism for centuries and centuries. And the Westerners have taken the mandala and used it to express their inner sense of self. So as a family exercise, it's fun and eye-opening to see how everybody sees themselves. Have crayons ready and ask each member of the family to color, and if they want to write a word or a phrase in each of the following areas. In the middle, the circle in the center represents the soul. The petals around the circle are aspects of self, such as friend, mother, sister, dancer, businessman, etc. And the rest of the design is a courtyard with steps going up to the center. At the entrance to each staircase, there is a guardian. So I have people draw or write those who guard their inner world. And finally, there are rings around the square, and these are energy rings or psychic protection for our soul. So color these or make a design with the pattern. When everyone is done, have them explain what has been produced and then hang these mandalas so people can be affected by the creative and spiritual statements that are made. Hang them up at least for a week or so. Okay, another interesting exercise for families is the I Am poem. This is done for older children. Members express what they think about themselves in a structured poem that lets everybody sound like a seasoned poet. And when the poems are finished, you're going to have members read them aloud so that they can see what it feels like to be giving a poetry reading. As we look at this, you'll see that there are 3 stanzas. In the first one, it starts out, I am, and then you write down 2 special characteristics or qualities that you have. So I am bold and beautiful. And then the next line is, I wonder, something that you are actually curious about. I hear, and now this is an imaginary sound, not the sound of the refrigerator from the other room. So I hear the sound of angels singing. I see, and again this is an imaginary sight, I see the clouds parting. And then you write, I want, something that they want. And then you repeat the first line of the poem. So you would say, I am bold and beautiful. Second stanza, I pretend, something you actually pretend to do. I feel, that's a feeling about something that's imaginary. It's not, I feel my sister pinching my arm right now. It's a feeling. I feel wonderful about my new second grade teacher. No. I touch, something that is an imaginary touch, something that you're not actually touching. So I touch the hearts of people as I sing in my chorus. I worry, something that really bothers you. I cry, something that makes you very sad. And then you repeat the first line of the poem, which would be, in this case, I am bold and beautiful. The third stanza, I understand something. So something that you know to be true. I say, something that you believe in. I dream, something that you actually dream about. And that can either be, I dream of being a carpenter one day, or I dream that monsters are crawling out of the closet. I try, something that you actually make an effort to do. I hope, something that you actually hope for. And then I am, and you repeat the first line of the poem. Now this sounds like might sound to you like it's just something fun to do, but in fact it's very profound, and often it has an effect on everybody in the family because they didn't know that the brother, who doesn't usually talk a lot, actually had those kinds of feelings. So I really suggest it as a family activity. Another fun thing to do as a family is something called a kirtan exercise. Kirtan meditation involves the chanting of primal sounds that signify the stages of life. So they are, and I'll go through this with you and you can see how this goes, but there is sa, which means birth, ta, which means life or existence, na, which means death, and then ma, which is what we on the West would call resurrection. So along with the chanting, one actually uses one's forefingers together to emphasize the sound. So it goes Satanama, 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 Satanama. And if you do that for 2 minutes, you will find that, again, there has been a shift, and kids love to do it. I mean, it's something that they would naturally do anyway. But what's fun about it is that you can also do something where you chant for 2 minutes in your normal voice. So you go Satanama, Satanama, and then you go to a whisper, which is called the voice of the lover. That's what they call it, and this is in Hinduism. So it's Satanama. And you do that for 2 minutes, and then you do what they call the divine language, which is you do it silently, you do it in your head. So you keep your fingers going, but you're just thinking it. And you do that for another 2 minutes, and then you come out into the whisper, Nama Satanama. Do that, and then you come out to the Satanama, Satanama. So it's all about 10 minutes in which you, again, are focused on, first of all, making, sounds that are just primal sounds. Your monkey mind has everything to do because it has to keep fingers going with sound. And kids just love to do it. And you'll find that they'll do it on their own. And it's very quieting for them. Okay, so what are the benefits of meditation for your family? Well, first of all, when you as parents have slowed down and are paying closer attention to your immediate world, to your breath, to your quietness, then you're able to actually notice things about your kids that you may not have noticed before. And you can also feel things that you perhaps haven't felt before because you've just been so busy. And then you communicate better in a more relaxed and open way with family members. And when the family all feels the sense of timelessness that they have been, when they've been meditating together, there is a sense of, I would have to say, peace. That it helps people feel kinder. They're gentler. They're more patient with people. Now, the front left lobe right here is where positive feelings are generated. You can actually create more brain cells in that area. And to generate an uplifting energy from a meditative experience, it does stimulate this left frontal lobe, which gives out more sense of joy. So even the most challenging experiences in the family, if people have a system in which people can at least calm down and breathe, and they can just get quiet, and there's a place that they can go, and this vibrant energy that springs from this natural buoyancy that we feel when we're meditating helps people feel up. And when kids do things wrong, which they do, this is a peaceful place where they feel like they've been forgiven or that things have come back into some kind of balance. So, as I've said, for children, they are often able to stand their own ground. They feel centered. They feel confident. They feel open. They're not afraid to stand up for what they believe or who they are. They can calm themselves and deal with situations that confront them in this increasingly neurotic world. They can break habits of just arguing habits that they have between them by just feeling good about the person or not responding in a typical way. And they will report that they do feel closer to siblings and parents when you meditate as a family. Now, some people have doubts when I talk about younger children meditating. So I have filmed a friend of mine who runs a nursery school and who teaches meditation to her children. It's part of their curriculum. So what I'm going to show you here are 4-year-olds doing meditation just to prove my point. Another method of contacting and calming young ones is a method that I use in my therapy practice called sand tray. In the early 1900s, H.G. Wells wrote a book called Floor Games. And in that book, he describes how he would get down on the floor with his children and play with small figures, and that in the play, he learned so much more about his kids. Well, that's gone on to be Carl Jung, which is my background. We do sand tray work with both children and adults. The idea is that the figures that are chosen have symbolic meaning, and that the actual work in a sand tray does provide people with an opportunity to distance themselves, to play out things in an area where your soul, gets a chance to see what's going on. So I'm going to share with you a session that I did, or actually it's a 2-part thing, with a young boy who was mildly autistic, and I just want to show you how peaceful he becomes after the second session.